Well, as you suggest in your book, feeling is more important than thinking in politics.
Yeah, and the guy I talked to about that is Tony Schwartz, who's this wonderful old gentleman, like really a gentleman. You don't meet gentlemen. American, New York City. And he was an ad guy, and his expertise was sound and pictures, and he did this amazing ad that ran just once in the presidential campaign between Lyndon Johnson and Barry Goldwater. And it was the Daisy ad, and his point was, and I think we're going to be talking about it later, is that the political brain is an emotional organ, and logic, if it plays a role, it's a supporting role. And really, people look at political issues through the prism of their heart much more than they look at it through the prism of their mind. And conservatives know that. Conservatives are just way better. You know, liberals all the time, guys like me will say, oh, it's hot button politics. And my point is, yeah, duh. I mean, that's what works. That's how they're winning, is because they're speaking about these things with passion. And what's amazing is, for example, on an issue like abortion, most voters in Canada and the United States disagree with conservatives, whether they're conservatives here or Republicans in the US. They disagree with their position on abortion, but they're at least gratified that the conservatives have a clear position. Whereas liberals and Democrats, they feel it's like they have 100 priorities and therefore they don't have one.
So too wishy-washy.
Yeah.
My friends say the power of the state stops at my body. End of story.
But they want to see you care. They're even prepared to vote for you. They're even prepared to vote against their own economic interests if they see a politician who is speaking with passion and conviction and clarity about issues.
Good orators, Ronald Reagan.
Yeah,
in
Reagan,
the United
great
States.
communicator. People, these liberals would make fun of him all the time, say he's not too bright. Well, I mean, that's never been an impediment to high political office, has it?
No.
And he was and in Toronto, where I'm living at the moment, we've got this mayor, Rob Ford, and the whole country kind of shakes their head and says, how can a guy like that get elected? And my point is, how can he not? Because he does the same thing Harper does, and Reagan and Bush, just speak in everyday language about values.
To the everyman, the every woman?
Yeah, and just, your average person. This goes back, I mean, you know better than me. The guy who did this in probably the first time was Richard Nixon, back in the 60s. So what he did was he equated the feminist movement with an assault on, the traditional male American household. He equated the civil rights movement as kind of special rights for blacks. And he equated the anti-war movement as this attack on America. It was working class families in the United States, as you know, who were offering up young men for the war effort. So he took all of that and he turned it around and said, I'm on your side. Richard Nixon. And they bought into it.
Yes, and he also rallied the youth.
That's right.
There were Nixonettes and big attempt to get the youth vote out, to get the younger vote out, all of that, very clever, extremely clever. Back to Daisy. You named your company, Daisy Consultants. Your dog is named Daisy.
Daisy's my dog. And Daisy is this amazing ad, and it's what it was about in 1964, fall of 1964. The choice was between Goldwater for the Republicans and Johnson for the Democrats. And Goldwater had said he was prepared to use the bomb to forestall the spread of communism around the globe. And a lot of Americans were alarmed by that, but it hadn't really become an issue in the campaign. So the Democrats turned to this gentle old guy named Tony Schwartz in New York City, and he put this ad together for them, and it ran once, and it changed modern election politics.
Changed it a lot, and we just happened to have that ad.
Excellent.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 6, 8, 9,
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, are the stakes? To make a world in which all of God's children can live, or to go into the dark. We must either love each other or we must die.
Vote for President Johnson on November 3rd. The stakes are too high for you to stay home.
That's powerful.
Isn't it?
We must either love each other or we must die. And what you thought at home was Goldwater will have, if elected, his finger on that button. And Johnson will have his finger on the button if he's elected. So who do I want?
Yeah, who do you want in charge? And the amazing thing about that ad is not just what was said. That was President Johnson's voice quoting Auden, the poet.
Yeah.
And
a little license there.
They use Auden a lot in a lot of the Rose Garden speeches. He didn't mention Goldwater's name once. Millions of Americans actually thought, this is getting back to the value stuff, emotion stuff, they actually thought they heard Goldwater's name. And so the White House switchboard lit up, and the president phoned one of his press guys, which was Bill Moyers, who went on to work at 60 Minutes. And Johnson said, "What the hell was that?" And Moyers said, "That's you getting your message across, isn't it?" And Johnson said, "Yeah, I guess we did."
So as a Canadian Liberal, what do you take from that?
Emotion, power, stating choices clearly so the people know it is a choice. It's not doing what the president did, what President Obama did on that first presidential debate. He was this university professor, and he was iterating lists of statistics and facts and stuff like that. And it was Romney, incredibly and probably, who was talking, emotionally about issues people care about. You do Daisy and the Occupy kids together. The Occupy kids give you the message, 99% versus the 1, and this gives you the way in which to do it, which is with emotion and power.
And you've been in many war rooms, I know that, and you worked with Jean Chrétien very closely. Chief of Staff, what were you?
I was his special assistant, I think was the name I had.
Well,
and so I ran his war rooms. But I've done them out here for BC Liberals and Ontario and different places, and that's always my recommendation is speak clearly in a way that people understand with power, with emotion.
Well, John Stuart Mill said, and you quote in the book, you can't beat them unless you know them. And I mean, there's a lot of conservatives a little mad at me for some of the mean things I say about them. And I don't, I'll have dinner with a conservative. I was married to a conservative once, but I don't like them when they're in power. And that's, the point I make. But Gerald Ford said to you, ex-President Ford said to you once, you can learn a lot from conservatives. So when we come back, let's find out what that might be. We'll be back with raconteur bon vivant, lawyer, author, fearless political pundit, Warren Kinsella.